First off, I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, the mercy of the grand predecessors, transmitting masters, lecturers, everyone here today for this opportunity to, to continue talking about this topic. Last time we were talking about enlightening the mind, which is basically, kind of a review of all the stuff that we talked about. Anything we talk about in cultivation, it's pretty much, included here, or it's part of this. Today here, so we're going to continue. Now here, we have to basically, in part of enlightening the mind is to have this mind that's non-dualistic, have non-subjective view. Okay, so basically this male, the nunsual, right? The no subject-object duality. Now this is like, it seems impossible because everything is subject-object. Okay, so right. So the example that this lecturer Liu gives is, he says, so when I say I am capable of speaking, or I can speak, I can say something, right? That's the nung part, the active or the subjective part, which is, it's hard to avoid this, right? But this is where we have the image of self, image of I, okay, or you could say ego. This is, because I am capable of speaking. Okay, I can do this, I can do that. That's all the self-image, the image of self. Okay, so that's part of the four images. And so this is now obviously maybe partly because of language. It's hard to get away without using this pronoun referring to the self. Okay, but the idea is that, so obviously it doesn't mean that, so we don't speak, but we shouldn't get stuck on the I. Okay, so like, because this can lead to I know how to speak, I know how to give a lecture or whatever. This means it could potentially be there's arrogance, okay, and or say I am right, okay, so then there's all this problems that come about from that, and we don't want to get stuck on this. So that's why one of the things, one of the, I guess you could say, practice, I guess, is humility, right? To be humble, okay. Modesty and humility, being humble. Okay, so right in the Tao Te Ching, you learn that. The more humble we are, the greater, the more noble we are, really. And so that's humble is, you can say, being low, right? Going to the lowest point. And if we can be at the lowest point, then that is considered the highest, actually. So if we can get rid of that I, that self view, that egocentric view, then that is basically, we become selfless, and that is the ultimate in being humble, I guess. And so then that is also the greatest. Okay, so that is what Tao is about. That cultivation is for us to try to reach, to get to that point, is to become one with the Tao. And so therefore we have to be more humble. Okay. That's just an example. Okay. And then so that's the okay. So getting back to this, saying that, okay, and then I can do something. That's the active, the subject part. And then the object, well, it's the words that I'm going to say, or what I'm going to do, or I'm going to do something, interact with someone or some object or anything. Okay, so that's the passive side of things. Okay, because we are on the active side, we're the initiator doing something, and so on the passive, the object side, then this you can say there's the fa shang. Okay, so image of Dharma. Okay, so Dharma in this case, I mean, specifically if we were talking about like the teachings, okay, so the words, then you could say well, that would be a capital D Dharma. But the Fa Shang really talks about all phenomena, all forms. Okay, so and words being a form, or teachings are a form, and so these are all. So this is on the other side. This is the object. Okay, so this is also part of the four images. Okay, so right, so we have to let go of the four images. Four images being self, and then humans, or you can say other. The object. Okay, so this is the self is the subject, and then there's the object, and then more broadly, talk about sentient beings and our own view of our life. This is me, right? This is my personality. Okay, so so these things we have to try to let go. I mean, but this is already having this idea is means that we are still stuck in these four images. And really, to enlighten the mind to behold the essence, we have to get rid of the four images. Okay. Now that sounds very difficult. It is difficult. It's not easy to do this because everything we view, everything, I mean, our way of thinking, everything is kind of based around these four images. And the four images, it's also the five skandhas, okay, the five skandhas. And we talked about this already, but we have to view the five skandhas as being empty. There's no essence. It's anatta, okay? So there's no true essence to it. So you can say that everything is an illusion or a delusion. But so the five skandhas, this is how we view the world, how we view ourselves, how we view reality. Okay, it's this process of the five skandhas, but then it's not the true reality. Okay, so it's really a delusion. From the enlightened view, it is a delusion. Okay, so and the four images is kind of part of this. Maybe it's like it's also part of this thing. Okay, so right, so you have the forms, the objects. Okay, the sensation is on our side. So this is like the external part, and then the sensation is the the rest of it is internal. It's all in our mind. How we perceive, how we sense, how we feel the external, right? When our sense organs interact with the world. Okay. Now, obviously, well, at least at our level. Okay, so we're talking about, cultivation is, it's obviously it's not like you go from one step from being a sentient being and then suddenly, you're at the Buddha level. I mean, it's like there's a long way to get between the sentient being and the Buddha. Okay, so we take it step by step, and we have to. So depending on our level of cultivation, where we're at, what we're able to be able to work on, kind of getting rid of or kind of stopping this. Okay, so from a Buddha's level, for them, they treat this as all of this as being empty. There's nothing. But for us, we're not at that level. So yes, we do feel, we do sense things, we perceive, and then at the next higher level is conception. We then also have ideas. We have ideas about what these things are. We can identify them. This is the name and form. Okay, so we label things, right? We give names to things, so that we can kind of. So, which then feeds into the next one, which is differentiation. Then we can differentiate what we are sensing, and this is where we can kind of work on. I mean, differentiation. Okay, so this is where then you have, I can see the difference between, let's say, obviously you say apples and oranges. Okay, they look different. We know that they're different. But you can have two apples, and you can say, well, I can I can kind of determine, like, one looks like it's got bruised, the other one looks more pretty, right? Looks more perfect. And this is that differentiation. And along with that, then we also have preferences. Okay, so we have then it's like, well, I want the one that looks more perfect. I don't want the one that looks kind of rotten or, well, it's bruised. And so then that feeds into the intention, which then is like, well, okay, so yeah, I'm going to pick the one that looks really good, and I'm going to eat only that one. I don't want to eat the other one. Okay, so this is so if we are trying to kind of undo this, so to speak, work our way towards viewing this whole thing as empty. We start from up here, from the intention, right? We first we have to overcome it's actually intention and differentiation. Okay, so ultimately it's really here. We kind of cut it off, or we try to stop this differentiation, and then that leads to the intention. Okay, so knowing, yes, yeah, I mean, I see that. Yeah, okay, this apple doesn't look as good as the other apple, but I'll still eat it. Okay, so, but even something simple like this. I mean, it's in our everyday life. We do it, and maybe we don't think about it, but it's part of kind of how we are, right? We have preferences, and so we do things like that, maybe without being too aware of it. So, like, there's food on the table, and a dish, and then sometimes people, like, they pick they pick from a dish. They don't just scoop it out. They pick stuff. Oh, there's something in there that they particularly like or they don't like, and so they pick the one that they like, and they leave the stuff that they don't like. Okay, so this is all part of this here, differentiation and intention. Okay, that leading to the intention, and so this is something that we need to work on in our cultivation, is to try to avoid doing that, basically, because that's a very simple, basic example. But I mean, when you're dealing with people, you're dealing with situations. I mean, a task. Say, oh, I don't want to do that. I mean, I'll do this other thing. Okay, so it affects everything that we do. Okay, so it's really this mindset that we need to adopt, to say, well, everything is equal, everything's the same. This is the mind of equanimity. Okay, so everything, we don't try to differentiate. The only thing that we really want to differentiate is what's true and what's false. Okay, what's true? If it's true, if you look at an apple, one is bruised, looks more perfect. There's no difference between true and false here. That's not that's doesn't fall into the equation, so that's irrelevant. But true and false in terms of what or what's proper, improper. Okay, so this is where we get into our behavior, our conduct, what we should do. So all the things that we've talked about in the past, the cultivation, right, the proprieties, the things that we know to do, what's righteous, what's proper, okay, because those are more in line or aligned with the Buddha nature, with our conscience. All right, so that's why we would choose to do the righteous thing or the proper thing over the opposite. Okay. So we're not talking about not doing that. Okay, so this differentiation is really talking about those forms that we're trying to differentiate, and then our subjective bias, right? I like this, I don't like this, or I think this one's better than the other one. Okay, so that's what we're trying to get rid of, right? So yeah, and there's, I guess, speaking the Dharma. Okay. I think a Buddha, before, maybe this is towards the end, I forget, I think someone asked him a question about his teaching, and basically Buddha says, he didn't speak any Dharma. He didn't really speak the true Dharma. Okay, so I mean, this is kind of like a paraphrasing of, it says, in speaking the Dharma, in fact, there is nothing to say. Okay, the basically, you know, on the one hand, you can say that the true Dharma is not spoken or cannot be spoken. Okay, the other, okay, so that's true too. Okay, so the truth, the ultimate truth, the true Dharma is beyond words. Okay, all the words that we use to try to talk about it are just expedient, convenient ways to try to let people understand what it is, but it's not it. Okay, it's not the true Dharma. Okay, so it's just pointing at it. Okay, trying to give hints to point at what it is. Okay, it's just like pointing at the moon. Okay, so that's a common image, saying that, well, the finger, you know, all this teachings, that's like the finger pointing at the moon. So we have to ultimately realize what that truth is, or what that true Dharma is. It's the moon. When we look at it, and then we have to kind of be aware of that internally. Okay, so ultimately the true Dharma is internal. It's within us, and we have to realize it ourselves. Okay, so that's why, you know, it's like enlightenment. Enlightenment comes from within, right? No one, they can teach us everything, but they can't teach us enlightenment. Okay, that has to come from within, right? So this is let me see. Yeah, so you know, we also want to, you know, trying to get rid of the, okay, besides four images, the grasping, right, clinging, desires, three poison. All right, so, you know, having like desires, things like that. Okay, so this, you know, this subjective view, or this subject-object duality, again, this is like so ingrained in us that is very difficult to try to get rid of that, to not have that view of things. But you know, we can work on it by understanding, you know, from the five skandhas, not getting to that differentiation or discrimination or bias. Okay. All right. So this here, okay. So this is kind of like giving the overview perspective of this whole thing. Okay. So really, enlighten the mind and behold the essence is, what is it? It's not really a specific method. Okay. It's not a specific practice. Okay. This is like one of the goals, if you will. Okay, so it's like saying, oh, to become a Buddha, okay, or to attain nirvana, right? To do that, well, I mean, this is just another way of saying that. It's like enlighten the mind and behold the essence. That's the same thing as, you know, when you do this, then you can be a Buddha. Okay, so but it's not, you know, the methods are all the things that we've talked about previously. Okay, so it's not one particular method. Okay, so yeah, so great achievement is based on having a solid foundation of resolute goals, right, unwavering vows, and diligence. Okay, so there's always hard work. Okay, so it's not easy. We always have to put in the effort. All right. It's not like oh yeah, okay, I can just sit and listen to the classes and that's it. Then I can become a Buddha. No, we have to practice. Okay, we have to cultivate. All right, so that's even more important actually. All right, so but yeah, definitely we start off with having the goals. So the goals, yeah. So okay, so I want to really the goal, you know, of becoming a Buddha or whatever. Transcending samsara, right? It's the end dukkha, right? That's the third noble truth, right? That's really the ultimate goal that we should be striving for. Now, so that does mean that we have to transcend samsara, which is the cycle of rebirth, and ultimately the highest level is to achieve anuttara samyak sambodhi, which is the ultimate enlightenment, if you will, or ultimate nirvana. I mean, that's in Chinese, that would be anodolo samyal samputi, or wusang zhengden zhengjue. Okay, so the highest unsurpassed enlightenment. All right, so that's a Buddha. Okay, so that goal is kind of maybe far away. I mean, transcending samsara, if we receive the Tao, and, you know, as long as we cultivate, then Holy Teacher, says that we can at least transcend this cycle for 10,800 years. Okay, so during for this white era, and beyond that, it's really up to us. So we need to have the virtues and the merits. Okay, if we don't have enough, if it's insufficient or deficient in those areas, then we're still going to have to come back. Okay, into the samsara and start over again. So, that's why it really, we should definitely, keep that in mind and work hard. Be diligent in cultivation, right? And then so again, so one of the goals or how to achieve the goal is enlighten the mind and behold the essence. But that can be viewed as a goal, right? So how do we achieve it? By practicing the middle way, according to Buddha, right? So that's the fourth noble truth. So the noble eightfold path, right? So right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. Okay, so again, these are, actually this, the Noble Eightfold Path, it does kind of span, from as being a goal, I guess, and also a guide. Okay, I'll say it's more like a guide. and I guess it also talks about certain methods, maybe not all the way to the very specific, but there are guidance about how we go about following this. All right. Okay. So then we also have the principles that we talked about. Okay. So the non-attachment, Buddha nature, spontaneity, the unforced action according to affinity. Okay. Sui-yin. Okay. So and the non-dualistic, non-subjective views. Okay. So these are kind of general principles that, so this whole thing, this cultivation, all these concepts or these principles, methods, whatever, you have to view it like it's like a multi-dimensional matrix, okay, multi-dimensional, and so it's these are like different dimensions, but you have to add it all, you have to combine them, all right, and to use all of them. And so then you can say more specific methods and practice, letting go of all karmic affinities and not giving rise to a single thought, right? That was the topic that we talked about previously, or just before this one. So this is kind of like getting a little bit more clear to the how, but really the ultimate, I mean, like this. Okay, so there was kind of like an example of doing this is, we basically focus concentration on one thing. Like you can just concentrate on these words here, let go of all karmic affinities, not give rise to a single thought, as a way to kind of not give rise to other thoughts. Okay. But that's not the ultimate, but that as a way to get started, that's one way to do it. Or you're reciting a mantra or a sutra, and you're just single-minded focus on that. So you don't let other thoughts arise. Okay, so this is way. So obviously there are different ways to do it, and it's not there's not just one specific way. We all have to see ultimately the ways or the methods that work. We have to find the ones that work for us. Okay, so sometimes maybe if you're just reciting the sutra, maybe that doesn't help, or I mean, it should help, but maybe it doesn't work as well as something else. So we all have to discover what really works for ourselves the best. Okay, so that's why in all the teachings, Buddha, I mean, they don't give you very specific, say, you do exactly this, okay, because that would be very narrow, and plus, just like what we were mentioning just earlier about the fa shang, the attachment to or the image of Dharma, that we get stuck on a particular form or a particular method. All right, so we don't want to do that. Okay, so it's right. So that's why it's really up to us. The same thing, like when the enlightened masters, okay, when their disciple or student ask them, oh, what is it? How did you become enlightened? Or what is it like to be enlightened? They don't really want to tell the student or disciple because of, again, that problem of the image of Dharma or image of whatever it is, because then they might get stuck on that. Okay, they say, oh, that's it. My master, this is what he did to become enlightened, so I have to do it the same ways. This is not, that's not the way. It shouldn't be like, it's not like that. Okay, so if we think that way, then we're going to get stuck at some point, because what worked for the master may not necessarily work in my situation, right? So we have to realize that we have to. So this is this is the part where we have to kind of become aware, to become enlightened ourselves. And we can't completely rely on anything external. Okay. And then, so, we also talk about the 4 courses of cultivation in the past, right? The moral character, virtues, merits, forbearance, and proprieties. And then, so obviously these methods, different, I guess these, you can say different methods, practice. I mean, there's overlap in some of these, okay? So it's like different slices. You're taking different slices in that multi-dimensional matrix, okay? And then, so 6 paramitas as well, giving, and then, obviously you have different forms of giving, the 3 forms of giving, okay, so giving of material, there's material giving, there's giving of Dharma or teachings, okay, or guidance, and then there's the fearless giving, okay, so, and then, but how, again, so that's kind of, okay, a little bit more specific, but then to get down to the really specific nitty gritty, it's like, oh, well, what kind of teaching or whatever. I mean, then that is, again, you can say it's undefined. It's up to, remember that Sui Yan, right? We have to follow whatever the affinity is. So if the person that we're talking to, we're trying to guide them, they need to hear, it depends on what they need to hear, okay? If they or if what they, I mean, maybe they are stuck on a particular teaching, like a religion or something, and we're trying to talk to them about the Tao, and so we can't use the same methods. Okay, so we can't use the same exact methods to talk about to this person as opposed to a different person who has a different view of things, right? So that's why if we were to try and say list out all the possible methods based on all the possible affinities, all possible situations, conditions. That's impossible, right? But unfortunately, that's how like laws work in any country. Basically, it's like, oh, this law applies and this has this specific conditions, and so laws don't work very well because they are specific. There are always loopholes. But so this is kind of coming from the top down as opposed to the bottom up. So starting with the principles and kind of from the most general working towards the specific. But once we get to the very specific, it's each individual has to figure out what that is, right? So again, so precepts, it also has precepts, forbearance, diligence, concentration, wisdom. Okay, so really, but ultimately, the Tao practice and cultivation is in daily life, right? It's not seeking some special ability or learning to transform rocks into gold, or learning how to make as much money as possible, or to become as powerful as possible, or any of those things. That's not the Tao. Okay, that's not the Tao cultivation and practice. It's in our everyday life, how we conduct ourselves in normal everyday life. Okay, so right, we've mentioned before in the past about it's the 4 normals, or I don't know what we call it, but 4 normalities, 4 normals, or the pingsang, you can say it's like the routine stuff. It's every day. It's like we get up every day to go through our routine on a daily routine. Ping fan, things that are commonplace. Okay, so it's in everyday life. Okay, it's not something that's extraordinary. Ping dan, things that are plain. Okay, so we don't try to live an extravagant life. Okay, we don't try to eat extravagantly or dress extravagantly. Okay, so this is more plain. And then 平时 you can say is simple or genuine. Okay, so again, this is, you can say it's sincerity. Okay, so but this is, very natural, you can say also, so that Tao is natural. Cultivation should be natural. It shouldn't be feel like it's forced. If it feel like it's forced, then maybe there's something wrong. There's something wrong with our view, or we need to look at it a little bit differently. At first, yes, for most people who are new and they start, it seems like it's kind of forced. You got to do all these proprieties, the kato, and the bowing, and all these other things, and there are all these rules and regulations. Yeah, at the very beginning, if we don't understand anything, that may be how we feel. But as we progress on this path of cultivation, we should realize then that it's not forced. Okay, so that it's very natural, actually. That it's very natural to do these things, to perform the proprieties, the kato, the bowing, right, and following those rules and regulations, the precepts. Okay, so that's something we have to kind of get to that level. But at the same time, it's not like we have to. We can't necessarily just in our mind just say, oh, okay, accept it right away. It has to go through that process, practice. Okay, so yes, even though we feel like it's forced at first, we have to go through the practice. We have to do it, and the more we do it, it will help to change our mind, basically. But we can't constantly be thinking, oh, this sucks. Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to do this? Okay, I'm constantly complaining. Then that's not going to work. Okay, then that means we're not willing to understand. We're not willing to change. Okay, so remember in on a previous topic, Holy Teacher is saying we have to change. We have to start by changing ourselves. Okay, so and that includes our attitude, our view. All right. Okay. So, all right. So this is so basically, this enlighten the mind, behold the essence is really, it's like it's the whole thing. Okay, everything that we talk about in cultivation. All right, you put it together, and that's what we can achieve. Okay, all right. All right. So now this is a scripture by Immortal Han of the Eight Immortals. Okay, so and he's talking about the Mingxing Jianxing. Okay, so the first half it's you have Mingxing, which is the enlighten the mind, and then the second half it's the Jianxing, the behold the essence. Okay, so the first one, it says, know that the great Tao is not far away. Seeking immortality outside of the heart and mind deviates from the true way. Right, so the Tao, it's not, we know it's within us. Okay, the Tao is everywhere. Okay, it's everywhere, but it's within us. Right, so we don't have to go outside to look for it. We don't have to go seek some guru somewhere to teach us what is the secret to immortality. It's within us. Okay, we already have it. Well, of course, we have to go through the Tao receiving ceremony transmission to get the three treasures to open up the portal. But it's really to point out that we already have it. Okay, so we don't need to go out searching for it, right? And any kind of if we're still out there, after receiving the Tao, and we're still out there trying to look for the answers, that it says that's a deviates from the true way. Okay, all right. So understand the fundamentals, right? Know the root and cultivate without delay. Sincerity touches and is sure to elicit help from heaven. Okay, so again, in previous topic, that Holy Teacher talked about the fundamentals of cultivation. Basically, that we have to understand those. And what's the root of? It's basically cultivating our heart and mind. Okay, that is really what we're cultivating. All right, we have to transform our heart and mind. And then so once we know it, once we understand, that's what it is, then we need to start cultivating right away. We shouldn't put it off, all right? Because life is basically it's impermanent. Okay, for one, it's unpredictable. We don't know what's going to happen next. So we have this pandemic. Who knew those people who got it and died? They didn't know that was going to happen. I mean, it's happened pretty suddenly. So that's why we can't delay. Right? Once we know that this is something good that we should do it right away. We should start right away. All right? Don't put it off. Sincerity touches and so and ultimately our cultivation is based on our sincerity. We really need to be sincere about it. When we are sincere, that is like our heart. It's a heart-to-heart connection with heaven. Okay, and so and definitely if we are sincere about cultivating, and we are cultivating and putting in the effort, then heaven will definitely help. Okay, help us when we need. All right. So awaken to the Buddha nature essence and diligently nurture it. Keep the restless monkey-like heart and wild horse-like mind closely tied. Okay, that's like an idiom. Okay, in Chinese, but it just means to rein in the heart and mind, to self-reflect, to bring it back. Okay, so because our mind is all over the place, right? We think about all sorts of things, delusional thoughts, whatever, distracting thoughts, and we're always focused our attention on the outside, on the outside world. Okay, so we very rarely take the time to self-reflect, which is really what we need to do. Again, right? The truth is within us, so we should look within for that truth. And if we want to change, if we want to cultivate, then we have to look within. We have to look to change within, not outside, not telling other people to change. Right? Okay. So awaken quickly and firmly, establish an aspiration, keep it in mind, and do not waver or give up on the goal. Okay, so we need to quickly wake up, right? We don't want to be living in a dream, and we need to establish a goal, an aspiration, right? Say, I want to transcend this samsara, this suffering. I don't want to come back and suffer again. Okay, so that's if we really mean it, then we should, that's the goal, and then we should make vows, right? We should take vows. We should continue to cultivate and work hard at it, right? And so we keep in mind and don't waver or give up on the goal. Yeah, so never, even though we will encounter hardships, difficulties, we have setbacks along the way, but realize always. Yeah, have that faith, okay, in that goal, and so that we can ultimately, we don't know. Sometimes when the things they're the darkest, and we're at our lowest point, we can actually get through it. All right, and again, with our sincerity, heaven will also will help us too. Okay, so we are not alone. All right. Okay, understand the truth and diligently cultivate to nurture virtues. Cultivate mind and body to make them both upright. Okay, proper, upright, rectified. So again, we have to understand what the truth is, the principles are, and to diligently cultivate, work hard at it, put in the effort. We have to nurture our virtues. Okay, the internal virtues. All right, understand Tao principles and follow the destiny, and we will prosper. Convince others with kindness and virtues. Okay, so again, following the destiny is basically our affinity, right? Hopefully our affinity is with the Buddha, okay? And we follow this path of cultivation towards Buddhahood, right? If we follow along this path, then we will prosper, we will thrive, we will succeed, okay? And when we try to help others or guide others, we use our kindness and virtues. Words don't always cut it. They don't necessarily believe us. But if we are virtuous and we are kind, then they are more likely to listen, to be convinced, okay, and follow. Study and gain penetrating insight into the truth without wearing out. Okay, so that, I mean, basically, we're always studying until we're old. We're still studying. Okay, and the mind should always comprehend the Buddha nature. So in this case here, but basically our mind, we should be, you can say, in touch with the Buddha nature. We should basically be aware of the Buddha nature, right? Or, ultimately is be one with Buddha nature, okay? Aligned with it, aligned with our Buddha nature, in accordance with our Buddha nature or our conscience, okay? So, all right, understand Tao to rectify actions and uphold morality, transmit the mind-to-mind teaching to disciples, okay? So, yeah, again, Tao is about, the cultivation of Tao is, about rectifying, about changing ourselves, transforming ourselves from normal sentient being, or maybe a sentient being into like a saint, sage, or Buddha. And so transmit the Tao, right? So the mind-to-mind transmission, that is the mind-to-mind teaching. We want to transmit that. Understand the heavenly opportunity like the sun shining brightly. The heart and mind is clear and unperturbed like the sun and moon. This heavenly opportunity, right? It doesn't come it doesn't come very often. Okay, so this white era that we're in, this time period where the Tao is available, during this universal salvation period, is where anyone who has that affinity can receive the Tao. So it's like that bright sunshine, and we shouldn't pass up on this opportunity. Okay, so if we haven't received the Tao, and also if we're not yet cultivating, we need to start cultivating, because the other, you can say, part of this opportunity is that we can, in this one lifetime, yes, become an immortal, become a saint and sage in heaven, and transcend the cycle of life and death. Okay, so it's there, and we can do it. Okay, so that's something that we should not pass on this. Okay. All right, so understanding or realizing Tao is best proved in actual practice and living. Be kind-hearted and sincerely respect immortal God. Okay, so yeah, to understand the Tao, or to really realize it, is through the practice. Okay, that's the important part, is the practice. And in our everyday living, we have to do it. I mean, if we just learn these concepts, the principles, but we don't put into practice, then we've really wasted. We're not going to really truly understand Tao. We're not going to realize what it is. All right. So sometimes I say, Tao must be experienced, right? And experience comes from practice. Okay, it comes from our actual living it. All right. So that is really the important thing with the Tao. That's why it says, Tao is in daily life, right? The four normals, right? So that's really what it is. And that's how we can realize how precious this Tao is. Okay. And so seeing wealth, or the wealthy, without envy, or you can say jealousy, is a clear understanding of the truth. Buddha nature is utmost quiescent without selfish desires. Right? So when we see, a bag of gold, or we see someone who's very wealthy, and we don't feel envy, right? So this, okay, so sorry, yeah, so this is now the second half of it, where it's talking about is the beholding the essence, but or he uses those words, okay, jianxing. Basically, then we understand the truth. We understand those principles, that we should not have desire for wealth, or at least not for someone else's wealth. Okay, so because our Buddha nature it's quiescent, it's unmoved, it's untempted by anything. There's no selfish desires in it. So we wouldn't be. So if we are one with our Buddha nature, then obviously we would not care. Okay, if someone else is rich, or there's this pot of gold there, it won't tempt me. Seeing things without being moved or tempted, right, is teaching of propriety. Buddha nature is clean and pure without greed. Yeah, so this is kind of related to this one. The propriety, right, we talk about the four proprieties of, basically, we shouldn't look at things that are improper. We shouldn't say things that are improper. We shouldn't listen to things that are improper. We shouldn't do things that are improper. Okay, so So basically, whatever it is that we see, that could be some temptations, we are not tempted, okay? Again, because the Buddha nature is clean and pure, and has no greed, has no desire for these things, okay? So, if we are one, if we have if we can behold the essence, we are at that point, we've enlightened the mind, then, that we wouldn't be tempted or moved. Treating the poor without bullying them or having disdain for them is to renew oneself daily. Buddha nature is fair and just without selfish bias. Okay, so again, this is kind of the opposite of the wealth or the wealthy. So this is the other extreme, I guess. But we should again have the mind of equanimity, of equality, right? Fairness, just because we should treat everyone the same equally. Yeah, it's even though the one person is rich, I shouldn't treat that person any better than the person who's poor. Okay, so because they all have the Buddha nature, they are all equal in the eyes of God, right? Equal in the eyes of Buddha. So they should be equal in our eyes as well, right? So we shouldn't look down on them. Now this bullying, okay, so I was kind of a little didn't realize why in the Chinese they view it as bullying. I guess this is a cultural thing. I guess in certain cultures the poor are treated, are really mistreated or not treated well. Okay, it's not just looking down on them. They really don't treat them well. Okay, so that's why. but anyways, so seeing the sick with pity, having pity on them. One can accumulate merits. Buddha nature is merciful and honorable. All right. So when we do see people who are ill, especially like we have Dao members, or it should be anyone, but we should have pity. And when we have pity, then there are things that we can do, right? We can try to help them, whether it is in any kind of way, and that could also be dedicating merits. Okay, so that is a way we can accumulate merits in that way as well. All right. So, but the Buddha nature is merciful. It's compassionate, and it's honorable. So we should also treat the sick, try to help them too. Right. Knowing or being reminded of righteousness in sight of material wealth or properties or things is to be a sage. Buddha nature is righteous without evil. Okay. So when we see things, and we are not being tempted, we feel righteous, or say, well, this opportunity arose that I can I can make big money. Okay, I can strike it rich, but we have to be careful that it's not. Is it legal for one, or is it moral to do it? So these questions come to mind. So this is the righteousness aspect. All right. Okay. So Tao saves us trouble just as the earth buries the dead. Okay, I guess that's a saying. So basically, the Tao, Buddha nature, light shines all over the world. So the Tao is the Buddha nature. Okay, so it's very accommodating. It can accept anything, right? And it also, you could say, it gives us peace. Okay, so we can be at peace if we follow the Tao, if we practice the Tao, we cultivate the Tao. That can save us a lot of trouble. Okay, maybe not all trouble, but the ones that count, the ones that really matter, karma, in terms of karma, reincarnation, definitely. All right, so definitely, we have to cultivate and practice the Tao, follow the principles of the Tao. Seeing gain, profit, or self-interest, right, with righteous thinking is to have a just heart and mind. Right, Buddha nature is like gray ash revealing the truth. Okay, so everything is very clear to the Buddha nature. Okay, so now when we see, again, this is gain, so this was similar to that previous one, but seeing, we have to make sure that, yes, when I can potentially benefit myself in some way, gain, or profit something, make sure that it is done, legally and morally, and the righteousness. So obviously we don't become attached, obsessed with it either. Okay, so again, it's like, yeah, follow the affinity. So if it was there, and the opportunity was there, but I missed it, don't keep trying to pursue that. Okay, it's over, it's over. All right, let it go. All right, meet opportunity with action, or act on chance, right? But always use caution. Right? Buddha nature is pure, kind, and honest, doing the utmost good. Anytime, that we do things, maybe an opportunity arose, and we can do something, but we have to make sure we're careful. We don't. It's like we say, oh, sometimes when no one is watching, right? We say, maybe I'll kind of like bend the rules a little bit or break the rules a little bit here because no one's watching anyways. No, we can't do that, right? It's just like the previous one and this one, saying, our first of all, our Buddha nature, everything is recorded, right, in our eighth consciousness, in the alaya consciousness. The seeds of karma are planted when we do that. So we have to be careful. Make sure that we do things with caution, or we say things with caution, say words with caution as well, right? That's one of the 15 precepts or the rules and regulations of the temple, is to be cautious in our words and actions. Okay, so all right, understand matters and circumstances as clearly as knowing our hand. Okay, so basically, it says the fingers and palm, but Buddha nature is bright and clear. Matters are completed naturally. So so we should, if we have, if we following practice, following all the principles, practicing, and we can behold our essence, then if we are one with our Buddha nature, yes, everything, we should be able to understand everything clearly, right? And it is just a simple matter of just fulfilling, doing whatever we need to do in that situation. Okay, and it'll be done naturally. Okay, so that's the good thing. We don't have to really think so hard about what am I supposed to do. It's just the Buddha nature will know what to do. That's the wisdom. That's the prajna wisdom. Okay, seeing a worthy thing to imitate. Again, that's an idiom. It means to emulate the virtuous, right, and forge ahead. Right, the calm and clear mind nourishes the Buddha nature essence. Right, so when we can learn from when we see or meet someone who is virtuous, they have virtue, then we should learn from them. We should try to emulate, right? Try to follow them, and learn, basically practice, their way. Okay, and this will, having a clear and calm mind nourishes our Buddha nature essence. So our heart and mind should always try to maintain that calm quiescence and clarity, right? And finally, okay, so if we can enlighten the mind to behold the Buddha nature, then we can live forever and never get old. Okay, that's the Sansambalao. Okay, but basically being an immortal, right? So that's basically, to be an immortal, to be a Buddha, right? We do this: enlighten the mind, behold the essence. Okay, so that's what immortal Han's scripture is. All right. Okay, so get to conclusion here. So we have to get rid of the sentient being view. Okay, that's the view of the view that most people have. Okay, that sentient beings have of the world, of themselves in the world. Okay, but which tends to be egocentric. There's selfishness, looking for self-benefit. So we have to let go of these things. Don't be, don't be fooled by our senses. Right, the five skandhas. Again, our senses, they fool us. They can't always be trusted. Right. So if we are doing, right, because if we are doing what a sentient being does, right, holding to their false or delusional views, then we cannot achieve, or we cannot become enlightened, right, become a Buddha. Right? We have to flip the switch in our mind from being an ignorant or delusional sentient being to an awakened, enlightened being like a Bodhisattva or Buddha. Right? If we are not rooted in the truth, the Buddha nature and true principles, then we cannot achieve, even though we are diligent in our practice, right? So that's why this the enlightening part. I mean, we may say, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to practice, right? Like, let's say maybe some people, they like to do meditation, but if they don't know the truth, they don't know the true principles, they don't know the Tao, then that practice will be basically it'll be wasted. Okay, there's no point in that. Okay, and so anyways, so these are all the kind of the principles that we talked about, right? So there's non-attachment, Buddha nature, spontaneity, unforced action according to affinity, right? So we have to also understand causality, right? Do not create karma, right? So now we obviously we carry karma from the past. We have karmic seeds planted from the past. But so what we want to do is this Wanyan Fansha, this let go of all karmic affinities, not give rise to a single thought, as a way to prevent, you can say, prevent those karmic seeds from maturing, okay, into a karmic retribution or karmic, even a karmic reward. Okay, so so that's because anytime we have, you might think, well, karmic rewards are not bad, are pretty good, but that means we're still in this cycle of reincarnation, birth, death, rebirth. Okay, so we don't want that. If we're seeking immortality, then we don't want that either. So, okay. Now, in terms of stopping, not creating new karma, right? Again, we always talk about got to stop eating meat. Okay, stop eating sentient beings. Okay, so and ultimately, when we're ready to, once we are able to, we stop eating meat, then and we stop eating those five pungent, garlic, onion related plants, herbs. Then we can take the vegan vow, because when we take the vow, that is basically that will help us even more. Okay, so it's not just I stopped eating meat, I stopped eating those pungent vegetables. Then that's fine. But there is a difference, okay? Because once we take the vow, then all the merits we accumulate are full. You can say full. They're not discounted. It's 100%, right? Until we take the vow, any kind of merits that we accumulate are maybe it's only 50%, right? So that's why the vow ultimately is very important. Plus, the Buddhas will help us, right? There's supposedly we get a flag, right? If we take the vegan vow, right? The more flags, the yellow flags, the Buddhas see that they try to save us if we take the vow. All right. Anyways, so let go of false delusional views and thoughts. We have to get rid of the subject-object duality for images, right-wrong duality, right? All these things, etc. Right, to achieve harmony, right? So really, we live in a relative world. Everything is relative. Okay. And so there is no absolute view, okay, let's say. No one is absolute right. There's no absolute right, wrong, and absolute perspective. But the best we can do is achieve harmony, okay? That is what I would call the absolute that's within the relative. Okay, you see that like the yin and yang, right? There's it's relative. All right, so but this is like the best that we can do is to achieve harmony. And so it's not about, oh, I'm right, you're wrong, and that's it. We want to have harmony, and that would be even better than saying, knowing, I'm right and you're wrong. Okay, so because when we're stuck on our positions, right and wrong, then that may not solve the problem. Okay, so harmony, sometimes you might say, well, you might have to compromise to achieve harmony, and that may be true. Okay, but it's more important to achieve harmony. Okay, but we have to use our wisdom. Okay, so we always have to use our wisdom in doing this. Okay, so there's just some simple, some basic guidance from Holy Teacher as well. So it says, if disciples constantly see faults in others, that means disciples need to improve their cultivation, right? So we always want to look at the good things. Don't always be looking at people's faults or mistakes, right? If disciples constantly speak of others' faults, others will also criticize us behind our back. So this is kind of like give and take, right? So we talk about other people's faults, other people are going to talk about us. So it's kind of karma, if you will. That's kind of like a karma. If disciples constantly find the good in others and praise and admire others, then your cultivation is progressing, and others are certainly praising and admiring you. So yeah, so this is kind of like partly you can say like the golden rule, right? So we want to do the things that are good to people, then we'll get it back in return in the same way. Okay, so very simple advice, but this is in everyday living, this is the type of things that we have to remember. Okay. Okay, so we get rid of our bad temper and correct our faults. Right, get rid of the 3 poisons: greed, anger, delusion, or ignorance. This is also like obsession, infatuation, all these things, stubbornness. Right, these are the things that we have to get rid of. These 3 poisons, definitely. Okay, so we have to work on the greed. Greed is it's basically desires. That's why we reduce our desires. The anger, anger management. Right? Well, no, we have to get rid of the anger totally. Okay, so, okay, and then to enlighten the mind, behold the essence. Okay, so we want to transcend the relative and enter the absolute. The only thing, everything in the universe is relative, right? The only thing that's absolute is the Buddha nature essence. That is the only absolute. Okay, so we want to transform the heart and mind so that it is one with the absolute Buddha nature. Okay, so right, even though our heart and mind, in terms of like when we talked about before, it is relative. It can be good and bad, right? Good and evil, whatever. But we want it to be aligned with the Buddha nature, which is absolute. And then so the things that we do, what we say, what we think, is in line with that absolute. And so we don't fall into we fall into the relative, we fall into the duality, then there's going to be karma. Okay, so we have to try to get out of that. Right, and then apply all. So then we also apply all the cultivation principles and methods that we've talked about in that in all our classes really. So Tao cultivation and practice is in daily life, right? It's the middle way that Buddha talks about, but it is the 4 normals. It's nothing special that we have to do, no special powers, etc. Right? It's just everyday life, okay? How we do things in everyday life, but we're doing it in a way that is different from most sentient beings. All right, it's like basically we are like a saint or a sage or a bodhisattva. Okay. There is no one practice to achieve the goal either. Okay, so realize that it has to be it's all of those. Okay, so we can't just pick and choose. Say, oh, I'm only going to do this one. Basically, because whatever we use in our daily life, if it's applicable in our daily life, we use it. Okay, to achieve the goal, right? And ultimately, we also have to use our wisdom to guide our practice and cultivation. All right, so we shouldn't just blindly do it. We have to use wisdom, right? We don't want to, and we don't want to, okay, so this, we don't want to get, in terms of this one practice, we don't want to get stuck on a particular method or practice either, right? So that's the fa shang, the image of Dharma, okay? So we don't want to get stuck on that image, right, either. Okay. All right, so another friendly reminder from a holy teacher, right, about, okay, so, if we are unable to control our mouth, then we will be unable to gain others' respect, right? If we are unable to control our temper, then we will be unable to change our fate, right? If we are unable to control our heart and mind, then we will be unable to transcend samsara, cycle reincarnation. Okay, so ultimately, right, obviously, our mouth, what we say, is important, and we have to basically be respectful, be right, and don't say things that will cause problems later on, right? Definitely you have to, our anger, our temper, right? Usually people do things out of passion, and that will seal their fate, so to speak. So we have to avoid that. And then ultimately, though, everything is back to our heart and mind. That's the root. And we need to make sure that we can control it, have it be aligned with, in accordance with the Buddha nature, our conscience. Okay, so that's the only way out of this cycle. All right. Okay, and then, all right, so kind of like, I guess, summary, I guess, here. Enlighten the mind, right? Understand and gain insight into the truth and Tao principles. So it's like learning, we want to learn, like learning a formula, right? Rather than memorizing a bunch of fixed equations, for example. I can say, oh, let's say I memorize like temperature, for example, right? Well, in the U.S. we use Fahrenheit, and basically everywhere else they use Celsius, right? So we can say, oh, I can say, oh, I know, 50 degrees Fahrenheit is 10 degrees Celsius, or 104 degrees Fahrenheit is 40 degrees Celsius. But why do I have to like memorize all these individual equivalences? If I know the formula, then I can plug in the numbers and I can get the result. Okay, so learning the principles, again, it's like learning a formula. Okay, but there are variables, all right, in that formula, and those variables are the areas where we have to fill in based on the conditions, based on the situation. All right, so that's where it's not fixed. Okay, but it still follows the same formula or the principle, right? So transform the human consciousness into divine wisdom. Yeah, ultimately that's, we have to change our way of thinking, our way of viewing things. We have to use the wisdom ultimately, transform it. And, part of it's like getting rid of the dualistic views, subjective views, all that. Then we can start using our wisdom, right? In the past, I think when talking about the four courses, I've talked about the four wisdoms, like transforming the consciousness into wisdoms, right? There's we won't get into it today, but and then so after we enlighten the mind, then we can behold the essence applied, which is basically, you can say, applying the Tao principles using our divine wisdom in daily life, right? So because then we are like a Buddha, we're like a Bodhisattva in everything when we live our lives. We conduct ourselves, there's no difference, right? A Buddha is not someone who has passed away and from this life and become a Buddha. I mean, a Buddha is made or is achieved during life. Okay, so that's what we have to do. Then we have to be like a Buddha in this life to become a Buddha, or to, we can, when we leave this world and we are Buddha. Okay, but we have to be a Buddha in this life while we're living. And then so basically, yeah, I guess this is from the Sixth Patriarch, I guess. That basically to behold the essence is merit, and equanimity is virtue. So basically everything, it's in our everyday life, everything, and we view things with equanimity. Then we have merit, that's true merit and virtue. Okay, so that is basically shows our achievement, right? If we can get to that level, right? But again, we're working towards this. We're all at maybe at different levels, but the principles are all the same, right? Those formulas are all the same. We just plug in different numbers for those variables. That's it for each of us, depending on our situation, depending on what level we're at. Okay. So finally, there's a song. Okay, so Buddha Nature Revealed, scripture by Holy Teacher. It says, "Getting to know you is the best thing that has happened to me." Right? Getting to know who? Right? This "you" is referring to the Buddha nature. Okay, so life to life, though apart, never far, yet we're still not well acquainted. Right? So this is basically the Buddha nature. Has always been with us in each of our lifetimes, wherever we are, whenever. The Buddha nature is always with us, but we didn't realize it. Okay, we don't know, so that's why we were not well acquainted with our Buddha nature until now. Hopefully, that we received the Tao, we're learning about it. We're learning more about our Buddha nature. We have to be in touch with our Buddha nature. We have to become one with our Buddha nature. Okay, so starting today, I will use my sincerest heart to be with you completely, right? To be one with our Buddha nature. No matter when or where or how the world changes, I won't let it beguile me. I won't let the world or the material things, everything, fool me or try to mesmerize me or try to, entice me, to tempt me, okay, all the material things, right? So this is where we have to work on the 5 skandhas to stop, that's one of the, but let go of our desires, things like that, right? And awakened, once I'm awakened, I'll follow my affinity no matter what else changes. Okay, so our affinity should be to the Buddha nature, you can say, to God, to Buddha, and that is what we will follow, to the Tao, okay? And no matter what else is going on, how things are changing, that's always follow that path. Buddha nature revealed is so beautiful, giving life the utmost joy. So ultimately, if we really are one with our Buddha nature, we reveal our Buddha nature, it's really all it's very beautiful. And, then life will be joyful rather than suffering, okay? It's suffering when we are sentient beings, but if we are really a Buddha, then life should be full of joy, okay? And cultivation should be full of joy. All right, so that's the song. All right, so that's it. Basically, this, so this topic is kind of like the summation, if you will, the the conclusion of all the topics that we talk about. Okay, and so this is like the ultimate goal, if you will. It's saying that it's basically there's one goal, but it's like we're saying it in different ways. And so, but this is it now. So this is kind of like although I haven't really talked about every single topic up until now. Maybe we'll continue with other various miscellaneous topics after this. But this is kind of like a conclusion, if you will, to all the things that we talked about from the very beginning. I didn't really necessarily plan it like this, but this kind of ended up like this. And so, yes, well, I'll pick some other topics. Maybe I'll talk about like the Heart Sutra afterwards, but I'm open to suggestions as well. Okay, so and we can also go back to revisit some other topics and things that maybe didn't go into much detail before. But definitely, after all this time, I hope that you've learned something. There's stuff that I'm sure you may not understand or want to understand more, or so please do. You can give your suggestion, and we can then talk more about it. Okay, so because this is not about me here, just talking about topics. It's for your benefit. Okay, so whatever can benefit you, please suggest it. All right. So all right. With that said, that's it. I hope. I may probably, if I have made any mistakes, if I had said anything that's not very satisfactory or offended anyone, I asked the Buddhists for forgiveness and also everyone's forgiveness, and also asked the transmitting masters and lecturers for their corrections. Thank you.